Well, in the meantime, while people are trickling in, I'm George Blikas. I'm CTO and partner at UAR. We are an augmented reality company specializing in persistent localization. So we're really passionate about if you have a single lens camera or a multi-input system, how do you precisely tell where a device is in 3D space? When it works, it just works, and so you kind of don't notice it going on in the background, but it's one of those core components that is super important for augmented reality, and if you don't master it well, AR is far less immersive, so it's one of those key cornerstone features that we feel super passionate about. And this talk in particular is about the YOUAR Cloud SDK and some practical implementations. So we're going to be running through some real-life examples of various SDKs, how they are similar, how they are different, and then talk about some of the core concepts that link them together, some of the things that are needed to work across all various AR cloud platforms. And I'm hoping to get through this in like maybe 15 or so minutes so that we have plenty of time for questions. I think bringing various augmented reality backgrounds to the scene, we all probably come at it from like a slightly different perspective. So I'll be able to go into maybe some more specifics for your industry or your application or company. We got a couple minutes still. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess I'll just get started and we'll go from there. And this is just opening up with some current working examples, just kind of going through what's currently on the market, how AR and the AR cloud interact. So this first example here is a scanning application. We were just recently in Malta scanning 3D locations and adding them to our AR cloud at UAR. This is our particular implementation in this case, going through and capturing the real world around us. There is, we were just in, I don't know if you can hear that. The music's not so important, but this is a Airbnb demo. So the idea is sort of like when you go into a new space that you aren't familiar with, how do you find and how do you operate the key components that are in your house? I know whenever I get to a microwave, I'm always like, there are so many different buttons. I don't know which one to click. Also getting into the house, if you're doing check-in, if you're on the outside of the house. We move to a shopping example. The glasses that he's wearing, this is all done through Nreal, so this is a headset example. The idea is, hey, I have a shopping list, or hey, I don't know where a product is. How do I find that product? You type it into your application, and then it takes you throughout the store and helps you shop. And then I don't remember if there's one. This is a drone-based demo, so the same AR cloud. Typically, we see it in the context of consumer applications or retail or something like that. This is actually the same AR cloud that you would scan with your phone to create sort of landing pad is then communicated on the AR cloud to alternate hardwares. It adds this really smooth interoperability that we believe at UAR the AR cloud should do out of the box. Sharing the context, whether you're on a mobile phone, a drone, an alternate sensor of some kind, and it performs the landing. And so I just wanted to start with those as kind of where the AR cloud, is, and then sort of get into what are the available SDKs that you could build some of these things with. The first one, probably most people are familiar with, is AR Core and AR Kit. I love this demo from AR Kit. I think it's a really cool way to contextually kind of visualize space around you. AR Core and AR Kit, very consumer focused. I'm sure they're getting into the enterprise play and things like that, but they are always going to be on the line between consumer privacy and effective demo. So by doing AR in your house, you're also inviting a couple security concerns. I think everybody wants to make sure their home is secure as possible. And with tracking and augmented reality, that rolls in a couple concerns. Both AR Core and AR Kit, competing feature components, human pose segmentation, object recognition, machine learning, AI, going through the feature set. Another available SDK is the YOUAR spatial anchors. This out of the, I think, big three players is probably one of my more favorite ones. They come at the AR Cloud with the idea of spatial context. And that really is something at UAR we're passionate about and we feel like is the key driver for effective AR Cloud adoption. Azure Spatial Anchor is working on Android, iOS, but primarily HoloLens. And so there's an interesting consumer element in that you need $3,000+ maybe to experience that HoloLens, which for a lot of consumers could be a barrier to entry. And then you have the content question on top of that, which is building with Windows-based products and then being locked into that ecosystem. So the question there is maybe about mobility, application, ease of development. The other popular one is the Lightship ARDK. Our friends at 60AI were recently acquired by Niantic, and they are now integrating their scanning technology into the gaming backbone. This is a very game-first application SDK. And so really, when it comes down to it, your AR will be experienced through the context of games, which is a super important sector, but then limits you when you want to try to use that data outside the context of games. And as a ever-growing area of use case, your success of that SDK is always tied to the success of the game. And so the question is, how do you build that network outside of it? And how do you continue to create a dense map that is most useful in as many games as possible? Then there's our SDK. This was done at the Malta Opera House. And we'll talk a little bit more about this and kind of how it bridges the gap between these various other SDKs and some of the strengths that it has. Most importantly, I want to start the discussion around public versus private. One of the things that you get with dealing with AR Core, AR Kit, Azure Spatial Anchors, Lightship, is that ownership and security get in the way of usability. So when you're talking about consumer scale things, you're always going to end up against this thing of, oh, hey, I scanned my house. I need to own that piece of data, which is very important. How do I know that the object that I'm putting on it is secure? How do I know that network traffic isn't leaving my application? And so when it comes to large-scale usability of the AR Cloud, you're always going to be capped by those features. And then also, all these big players really want to own their own version of the AR Cloud. So there are efforts to allow you to, say, use an Android or an iOS device in order to bridge the gap between different hardware platforms. But at the end of the day, you're putting your data in the hands of larger players, which, especially like GDPR concerns, the question is like, how much of that data are you letting out? Other things like that. And then also in terms of platform design, the feature set that you have access to will always be driven by whatever direction that company wants to go. So really the key is to democratize the AR Cloud, which is where UAR comes in. And our goal is to be able to say, okay, what really matters is the context of the AR that you're doing. How do you provide a framework that allows people to create something on the AR Cloud, leave it on the AR Cloud, and then use it in a secure and safe way that everybody else can also benefit from that? So a little bit proof through use case. it's essential that the AR Cloud must link between all AR providers. And I want to talk a little bit about our current partners building with us. Sort of 3 sector areas. We have digital twins with Geogram in Toronto, Sojourn, which is a last meter delivery service across various US states, and then Drawing Code, building the multiverse, and Bepe's here to talk about that for a little while, and going through and scanning and creating a dense enough network to provide usable AR Cloud infrastructure. So turn it over.
Can you hear me fine? Yeah. I'm Beppe Scavo, Head of Development at Drawing Code. We are a decade-strong immersive studio, been doing immersive experiences for the 10 plus years with all sorts of technologies. We are technology agnostic, and we work in all sorts of application and industries. However, we've opened, we have an office in Liverpool, which is our main studio, but we've opened recently an office in Malta, beautiful island in the middle of the Mediterranean, where we do pretty much R&D, research and development in everything and anything immersive. So we're trying, our 3 pillars are, trying to research what is good and how we can bridge the gap between digital and physical with stories, people, and places. And what we're trying to do in Malta is essentially with the help of UAR, we're trying to map the whole island. Malta is very, very peculiar in the sense that it's a very small place, but very self-contained, and it's pretty much our guinea pig place where we're trying to map the whole island and create this digital twin that then we can use for all sorts of application, from the social to the historical, touristic, and gaming-related entertainment. And we're trying to go beyond that and try and see. We're working with a government, Maltese government. That's also the other very nice thing about Malta, is that we work very closely with the government, and so we're trying to go beyond and see what are the government needs when this whole island has been mapped, and how we can use that, a different layer of information. The same way that for example, Niantic has approached the building the AR Cloud in the past, on building layers on top of layers of information. We are taking that and opening up, let's say, the discourse out of the gaming industry more towards the general public. And yeah, so we started, we're 1 year into our journey into Malta, and we are doing very good progress. And by the way, we are hiring, so I totally recommend you pass by booth 163. And we have a little gift for you, and yeah, we're trying to push the boundaries of what's possible. Actually, you see my T-shirt is "Exploring the Impossible" is our motto in DNC Labs, and that's what we're trying to do in Malta. So please come and join us, and come and see us at booth 163. Thank you, John.
And a little bit to dive into sort of the layers that Beppe was talking about. There really are sort of also 3 layers of integration represented by these 3 partnerships. One is creating replicas of spaces, so sort of NVIDIA Omniverse perspective of things, which allows you to do real-time data inputs and things like that. And then with Sojourn and last meter delivery, it's really about, okay, how do you bring goods and services to people in effective ways? That was, which is sort of the real tangible element of the supply chain. And in the backbone of all this is that all of our partners use the same AR Cloud with secure and private content they own. So essentially, instead of needing to replicate the same physical space several times in augmented reality, you have the ability to exchange data and the localization context without jeopardizing security across all applications. My analogy for this is kind of like if you were to do AR on the White House, which is, there's a lot of security concerns centered around a camera or data that could be pinned to that in the AR Cloud. The key being that as long as none of that data or that content leaves that AR Cloud infrastructure containerized into your application space, in your user space, and all of that, pointing at a camera at a secure location isn't necessarily a problem from a localization context perspective, and also helps things like data efficiency, network optimization, creating a more dense network for the future. But there are cases where private AR clouds are needed in terms of maybe it's a sort of an air gap solution. And really with the YOUAR Cloud SDK, the idea is that these private AR clouds are securely shareable. So if you would like to say, hey, I made a scan of this one place, it's very useful, but it's a secure location, you can go ahead and through a permission system, open that up to other developers to say, just localize to, or just see a certain piece of content, or just see certain user interactions that happen on that space. But and another analogy to kind of pair with this is sort of like the current way web infrastructure is set up, right? We have secure servers that host certain functionality. You may still need to ping those servers to access services, to get some sort of data computation result out of it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, they're still secure behind some sort of system. And the key takeaway is share that context and stay secure. So this is not a useful AR cloud platform unless you can share that AR cloud with everybody else and it being secure. If you want to get in contact to talk more maybe beyond this event, feel free to reach out. I'm always available on email, and I'd love to hear from you. That's it. I don't know if we have time for questions. Looks like 12 minutes. Okay. I'll be outside if anybody wants to talk after this. I would love to hear from you.